It's junk
for Jeff at least.
Yeah, for Jeff. It's junk mid-range, fairly similar to the deck that Reed Duke played at the Invitational.
Yep.
Just variety of good stuff. The big new exciting addition here, 2 copies of Ajani, Mentor of Heroes.
I'm surprised we did. I almost forget that card exists.
Yep.
Because like all the other cards that are, from the new set, I oftentimes forget that Ajani is, one of the first cards that was released and spoiled, and everyone was just like, holy crap, this card's awesome. Oftentimes I just forget that it's even there. As it looks like Donavahn Speers here with mono black aggro. He's going to start off with a Rakdos Cackler. I took the fun deck, or the aggressor deck. Look, I like attacking more than you. He's got Scarhide, Herald of Torment, Tormented Hero, Cacklers, Pain Seers, Spiteful Return, Thoughtseize, Hero's Downfalls, a couple copies of Mogus Marauders, and Brain Maggot. Very straightforward 19 Swamps, 4 Mutavaults. So there's a lot of different, working parts that people can play in this deck too.
Yes.
That's the other thing too, is that Mono Black has no shortage of card choices. I mean, we don't see a card like Pack Rat here. Lifebane Zombie isn't in the main deck. So, there are a lot of different ways you can go. Actually, Lifebane Zombie doesn't look like it's throughout the 75. So there are a lot of different ways that you can go with this particular deck. And you see Rakdos Cackler does get brick-walled here pretty badly by the old Sylvan Caryatid.
Sylvan Caryatid is one of the most important tools for mid-range decks and beating aggressive decks. The main acceleration plus having a great blocker, it's exactly what you're in the market for.
So Hoogland just going to play a Temple Garden tapped and pass the turn back, is another. Mutavault's going to come down here for Speers. Both these players, of course, 1-0 here in our 10-round standard open.
This is a great opening for Jeff.
This is a Tormented Hero for Donavahn. He's going to fire Mutavault and try to get in there with both creatures. Looks like he will. Something bad could happen here. See, Jeff does have a copy of Abrupt Decay in his hand. I think that's going to be something that we say a lot over the next couple of months is X-Player has a copy of Abrupt Decay in their hand because that card is definitely going to uptick now.
Yeah, you finally have the appropriate mana fixing to play it. I think you're going to see a lot of it in decks.
Hero's Downfall is going to be more mana efficient as Hoogland's going to be able to use all of his mana to take care of that. Save Abrupt Decay for a little bit later, maybe for a time when he can cast 2 spells in 1 turn. No damage dealt to Hoogland. He's going to untap. He will take a draw here. It's a copy of Advent of the Worm, another card that even though its Temple has been around for a while, Temple of Plenty, has not seen a lot of play. Maybe this card gets better moving forward as well.
Well, all the temples help because
Yep.
you just have more interlocking pieces for something like a junk mana base that you see Jeff playing here today.
Well, it's just, I always think about this just of cards that are underplayed. A card like Advent of the Worm, it's laughably powerful.
It's really good.
It's like insanity that card doesn't see more play just because of how good it is. But at the same time, there hasn't been a home for it yet. Just been looking for the right spot. Yeah, that card did win a Pro Tour, a block Pro Tour in the hands of Craig Wesco, but outside of that, it hasn't really done very much.
And it was by far the best card in that deck.
Yes.
Maybe Voice of Resurgence is close, but I mean, those were 1 and 1A.
This is the Thoughtseize to start things off, so the jig is kind of up here. And we'll see if Jeff decides, okay, I guess I'll cast this Advent of the Worm now, or let you just see my hand. Looks like he is going to play the Flash 5/5.
Donavahn, not a lot of great answers to 5/5s in general. He's got Herald of Torment that he can give a guy +3/+3 in flying. He has Hero's Downfall, but 5/5 is very good against him.
Again, the thing about this deck and the deck that we saw last round, the Black-White Enchant Creature deck, is that they are removal light. 4 Heroes Downfalls, you mentioned 4 Herald of Torment to kind of go over the top of it. We saw in the last one 2 copies of Banishing Lights. That's really it. Finding that balance of the appropriate amount of removal is really hard for these decks to do.
Yeah. The biggest issue is that when they have Sylvan Caryatid, they advance their board so fast that you can't even really keep up with removal spells, and there's no good removal spell you can play to fight Sylvan Caryatid.
So Thoughtseize is going to take care of Abrupt Decay. Spears will take 2 to do it, but Hoogland, does have a 5/5 Worm token right now.
This is where the bestow creatures in Donavah's list can potentially play a critical role.
Yeah.
Spiteful Return can give him some range, and Herald of Torment can fly over, but he needs to find something along those lines.
And all he can do is just simply pass the turn back here, so Hoogland's going to take a draw. See if he's able to pick up a land or not. He still does have some things to do in the meantime. One of them is attacking for 5 with the Advent of the Worm token. Spears is going to go down to 13, and we'll see what Jeff's follow-up is going to be. It looks like it's just going to be a Scavenging Ooze. This is another card that's going to see a lot of play probably moving forward. A Sylvan Caryatid as well before passing the turn back. Hoogland setting up a big turn next turn with Archangel of Thune potentially.
Scavenging Ooze is a house against small creature decks, that's for sure.
It's crazy just to see another card like Scavenging Ooze, which, you know, it did see some time in the previous standard format in Jund decks. Is like a 1 or a 2 of, you know, Redo, going Turnwald, and employing that strategy along with the rest of the Jund players. And, you know, it's seen some play here and there, but, you know, for how powerful that card is, I'm not surprised to see, you know, its uptick, especially with these aggressive decks coming out now.
Yeah.
5 mana. You mentioned Herald of Torment. It's time to bestow it. It's going to go on a Tormented Hero. Let's see if Spears does remember the trigger there. Make sure that Hoogland does lose a life. It looks like he does. And it looks like it might be time to attempt to race. It's just I'm not sure if it's a race that Donavahn can win.
Scavenging is a little bit more powerful in larger formats just because interacting with the graveyard, generally speaking, is going to be more powerful the more powerful the format becomes.
Yeah. Hoogland going to take that 5 points of damage. It's even up right now at 14s, but...
And this land that Jeff just drew here, this Overgrown Tomb, opens up a pretty powerful sequence of being able to play Archangel this turn and activate Scavenging Ooze if he's feeling so inclined.
It's a pretty good turn. Now, it looks like it's a Ravnica Shockland, so I'll have to take 2 to do so. The question is, you know, do I want to lose 2 life from this Overgrown Tomb, or am I just happy with how things are going? You see he's going to analyze some things here, will Jeff, and move forward appropriately.
I think I like getting the Archangel into play this turn and activating. Because remember, Donavon's himself at 14, he takes a ton of damage this turn.
Yeah.
And Jeff's in a position to be pretty aggressive himself.
He's going to take 2. He's going to go down to 12. So it looks like he's going to make this line that you did mention. Here's the Archangel Thune with the ability to activate Scavenging Ooze. Eat that Rakdos Cackler. You see Donovan's going to take a look at Archangel Thune. We'll do the same. 5 mana 3/4 flying with lifelink. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. And of course, Scavenging Ooze's ability, you remove a creature, you gain a life, and then that'll trigger the Archangel. So a really, really sweet turn here for Jeff.
Archangel plus Ooze is just good, honest living. I mean, this is the way Magic was meant to be played.
Good, clean Magic.
That is just good, clean Magic.
Can't argue with that.
I got these sweet cards. They're pretty good by themselves. When I have them together, they're even sweeter.
Yeah.
Richard Garfield would be proud of this.
You will see the Ooze activation. 2 counters will go on the Ooze, 1 from the Archangel trigger, 1 from the Ooze itself. A bunch of damage is going to get dealt here. See, Ooze is going to come across here for 4, 5, 6. That's going to be 10. Spears is going to take 1 from Herald on his upkeep as well. Jeff will remind him of that. So Spears is going to go down to 3. And it's going to be a rough road ahead here for Donavahn. Just didn't really get off to that fast of a start this game.
Yeah, even if he has Mogus, what's his best turn here? Mogus, Marauder, plus Fight Pole returned. And I don't think that's enough damage.
Yeah.
5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's not quite enough.
And that's a pretty good turn, too, is the crazy thing.
There's no shame in that turn.
Yeah. We got a Hero's Downfall, it looks like, here. That's going to take care of the Archangel. And it looks like this Tormented Hero is going to attempt to be on defense now.
Well, unfortunately, that unlocks a Herald of Torment, which is also going to be dealing damage to him.
Yeah.
So even if he survives this turn, it doesn't offer much of a reprieve.
It looks like there's also a Mutavault back there on defense as well. I think just the big problem here is the 6/6 Trampler. Trample actually being relevant text right now in Advent of the Worm.
There's a lot of problems in play right now.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You are not wrong. See if Spears has anything else to do this turn. See him taking a look at his hand. And he is just going to pass the turn back over to Hoogland, who will untap all of those permanents. He will take a draw. Not sure what he picked up. Looks like it may have been a Courser, but the simple part is just, hey, attack with my 2 creatures.
Here comes lethal.
Yeah. You got to do something about it, basically. So 6/6 Advent of the Worm and a 4/4 Scavenging Ooze, potential to be a little bit bigger. This is a Mutavault that will go active. And it'll be blocking somewhere in just a moment.
I mean, this is a double chump block, and
yeah, that goes there. The big, obviously, the Tormented Hero that's enchanted. Yeah, and so the trample damage plus the Herald Torment trigger,
yes,
was going to finish off Donavahn, and Jeff does explain that, and that's going to do it. So Jeff Hoogland does win game number 1 here with his junk mid-range deck over Donavahn Spears and his mono-black aggro deck, as we'll move on to the sideboards here. You know what? You want to do mono-black aggro. Here you go. Here you go, my friend. Don't say I've never done anything for you.
I was just saying, I was talking about this deck on camera recently
I don't remember that.
as something that I anticipated being pretty powerful with the new cards.
I don't remember that.
Anyhow, 2 copies of Brain Maggot. He has 2 in the main deck, so he can go up to 4 of that. 3 copies of Erebos of the Dead, 3 copies of Duress, 3 copies of Devour Flesh, 2 Dark Betrayals, a Doom Blade, and an Ultimate Price. Not really a lot of great action here. I mean, I anticipate we're going to see the Doom Blade come in, as we saw in Advent of the Worm Token and Scavenging Ooze. Ultimate Price can come in for the same reason. Maybe he wants to rest. You know, he saw Advent, Abrupt Decay. He can anticipate more removal spells coming in. Brain Maggots 3 and 4 are not unreasonable, but not a lot to really bring in here.
Take a look at Hoogland's sideboard. You've got 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Sin Collectors, 2 Lifebane Zombies, an Obsidian Ghost Council, an Underworld Connections, an Erebos, God of the Dead, 2 Golgari Charms, 2 Bile Blights, and 2 copies of Putrefy. Putrefy is apparently that new hotness.
Another card that now is a little bit easier to cast.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone talks about Abrupt Decay. Putrefy is no slouch in its own right. As far as options go, I mean, he's playing against a very aggressive deck, so you got to like Golgari Charm here to maybe slow things down. The -1/-1 mode could actually probably clean up quite a few things here against Spears' deck. Lifebane Zombie, not particularly at its best. That'd be an easy card for Jeff to sideboard out. Putrefy, Bile Blight, those are more removal spells to kind of stem the rush. Putrefy is a little bit more expensive than I like, but I do like Bile Blight this particular matchup. And then Obsidian can do a nice job of, you know, playing cleanup duty while gaining life and keeping Jeff safe.
I'm only in the market for removal spells and high-impact cards. So I think that, for example, probably means that the 2 copies of Ajani should come out of here. I think the 2 copies of Underworld Connections are pretty bad in this matchup. Just find ways to get rid of your slow, non-board impacting cards to just bring in more removal spells.
Yeah. I am hard-pressed to disagree with you. I actually kind of like the makeup of Jeff's deck this weekend. You know, the numbers are a little all over the place because he just looks like he's trying a couple of different cards, but you've got 4 Coursers, 4 Advent of the Worms, 2 Blood Baron of Escopa, 2 Archangel of Thune, an Obsidian, 2 of the new Ajani, an Elspeth, 3 Abrupt Decays, 4 Heroes Downfalls, a couple of copies of Underworld Connections, a couple of copies of Banishing Lights. This feels very Jund-esque to me.
Yeah, it's just some good threats and some good removal spells. This is, as far as Jeff goes, this is coloring inside the lines. I mean, he's not doing anything. 2 weeks ago in Detroit was truly wild, what he was trying to play together.
Sure.
But now, you know, you don't often see Golgari Charm alongside of a Summon the Legion or whatever was going on with Jeff's list last week. But this week, it's just all good stuff. The mana seems pretty stable. Not too wild of a deck.
Yeah, I'm really looking to see what's the deck that takes advantage of people's mana bases. You take a look at Jeff's deck right now: 4 Temple of Silence, 4 Temple of Silence, 4 Temple of Plenty, 3 copies of Temple of Malady, 4 Overgrown Tombs, 3 Temple Gardens, 3 Godless Shrines. That's a lot of lands that come into play tapped and or deal you damage. A Mana Confluence, 2 Forest, 1 Swamp. So you really have to wonder, you know, what's the deck that really punishes these decks that are playing this kind of mana? I mean, Van Meter's deck as well, last round, Jund Monsters. A lot of lands that either come into play tapped or deal them damage.
What's interesting here is a lot of the cards and decks that punish those kind of mana bases are very susceptible to Sylvan Caryatid.
Sure.
So it's hard to find the right mixture. That's why we saw even a couple weeks ago mono green aggro with Brush Strider be a thing, because 3 power is so valuable to have in a world where people are trying to block with Sylvan Caryatid.
Yeah, Mason Lang in Milwaukee a couple weeks back, employing that strategy to make the top 8.
Same reason I'm a big fan of pump spells and beatdown decks right now. Is just more ways to push through Sylvan Caryatid and Courser of Crewfix.
You and Brad Nelson. Brad Nelson, a big advocate for giant growth right now.
I mean, I've been mocking, so
yeah, that's fair.
Who am I to judge?
Tormented Hero going to start things off here for Spears. You see Jeff with the Temple of Silence. Top card's going to go to the bottom. He'll pass it back over to Spears, who will untap. He will take a draw. Hoogland will be moving down to 18 in just a moment. And we'll see what Spears also has this turn. There's a Cackler.
Looks like Donavahn kept a very land-heavy hand. I think his hand might just be swamps from here.
Uh-oh. Hoogland will take a draw, copy of Abrupt Decay. This is a forest, pass the turn back. One of the 3 basics in his deck does show up. Spears will take a draw. And it does look like he is very swamp-heavy right now, not even a Mutavault among those lands. It does look like he picked up a copy of Herald of Torment.
5 swamps and 2 1-drops still feels like a mulligan to me.
This is a Golgari Charm. It'll take care of the Tormented Hero. It'll make the Cackler a little bit smaller, so 1 damage is going to come across. And it looks like Spears will probably follow up with that Herald of Torment. Now, the question here with the Mono Black aggro deck is, you know, we talk about mana bases, and Jeff's is kind of all over the place with these Temples and these Ravnica Shocklands. Donovan's much more straightforward with 19 Swamps and 4 Mutavaults, but it begs the question of if he should be playing something like Temples of his own.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, you know. Is there even room for colorless value lands as well? You know, if you can afford 4 copies of Mutavault, can you afford a copy of Encroaching Waste or Rogue's Passage? There's potentially room for those kind of lands as well. I think the answer is probably no, but there's a lot of ways to build these decks.
Abrupt Decay does take care of the Rakdos Cackler. Spears still opting not to cast that copy of Herald of Torment, just looking for a better spot to deploy that. Gonna play a Swamp here as his 5th land. Could fire at Mutavault if he likes, but he's really got to get the ball rolling here because Hoogland's at 17, and we're working our way into the mid-game, and the mid-game is exactly where a mid-range deck like Junk wants to be.
Looks like Donovan's brought in Erebos here.
Okay.
I am, as a rule, not a big fan of Erebos in this kind of matchup. I think when you're playing against a very removal-heavy strategy, not to say Jeff doesn't have removal, but something like Esper or Blue-White where they're trying to beat you by just killing everything that you play, Erebos is really good in those games. When your opponent can invalidate all of your creatures with Archangel of Thune or Palakronos or Obstat or something, I'm less in the market to play a slow card advantage game. You got to get the move on. Even if you're drawing extra cards, just going to be able to overpower you.
Yeah, I think this is just kind of a lesson in role assessment here of, you know, what role you're trying to play in the matchup. Donovan can never be the control deck. He's always going to be the aggressor. And as such, I think he needs to tailor his deck towards being the aggressor in sideboarded games. And in, you know, pre and post sideboard, he doesn't get to play the control deck in the matchup and try to out-card Jeff because Jeff's cards are just too powerful.
Yeah, they
once we get to late game.
They impact the board too much.
Yeah.
Too high impact.
And so, you know, kind of trying to pick and choose your spots with Herald of Torment and things of that nature is just something that I don't think is going to work out for Donovan more often than not. He just needs to, you know, get his beat down on and hope that Jeff doesn't have the right answers at the right time. I think that's really all that he can do.
Yeah, I agree.
You see Banishing Light does take care of Erebos, so no real gain there for Spears. He's taking a look at that Herald of Torment in his hand. He drew an ultimate price, and he's got a Mutavault to go along with the Swamp. So now he's going to drop down the Herald of Torment, but it might be too late at this point. It's not Mutavault's going to get fired up. So Hoogland will take 2. He's going to go down to 15. Here's the Temple of Silence. Take a look at the top card. It's a Swamp. We'll see what he wants to do with this.
Really wants to get to his 5th mana here to just deploy that Archangel.
Yeah, I think that's really all he needs to do. He's got Abrupt Decay at the ready for the Herald of Torment here. So Spears is going to untap. He's going to take 1 in his upkeep. And we'll see what he can kind of put together this particular turn.
And remember now, Donovan has to be concerned about the possibility of Advent as well.
Yeah, that's a very, very real thing. The mana is there. So slamming with Mutavaults is a little bit risky. And he will fire Mutavault with the new one. He just did play. So in for 5 we go. This is a Putrefy. Still saving Abrupt Decay. Wants to play the more expensive card so he can play 2 cards in 1 turn. He'll take 2. Will Hoogland going to go down to 13. But you see the big problem here is that Hoogland does have that Archangel of Thune. Spears thankfully does have a copy of Ultimate Price in his hand, and Jeff isn't even going to deploy the Archangel. Just assuming a removal spell, which is a pretty safe assumption. When your opponent has 8 lands in play and a couple cards in their hand, really what else could they have?
I think Jeff has sprung the trap here. Yeah, he set up this Bile Blight beautifully.
So now it might be 2 for 1 time. And it will be 2 for 1 time. So bye-bye Mutavaults. Very, very nice Bile Blight there.
Yeah, this is why Jeff did not deploy his Archangel last turn. Felt pretty confident that Donovan was simply going to untap and attack with both Mutavaults, and now he gets to kill both of them.
And now here is a Johnny, Mentor of Heroes. Going to reveal a couple of cards. Courser's going to go to the grip. The +1 there, obviously distribute the counters. The other +1, look at the top 4 cards. You can reveal an aura, creature, or a planeswalker. That's what he did. Took the Courser to the grip.
Ajani, Mentor of Heroes, also a nice synergy with Archangel because when you gain 100 life, you also you trigger it, and then it's +1/+1 for all of your creatures. So that's a really nice additional synergy.
I had missed that one.
Yeah, the plus power can also find your Archangel. So there's really a lot. There's a lot going on. Oh yeah.
Oh baby.
There's a lot going on here to like.
Speaking of synergies with the Angel, Courser's going to come into play, reveal an Abrupt Decay here.
Oh, that's lame. We've seen that before, though.
That's true.
That's not even. What are we even talking about here?
Take a look at some cards here for Jeff. Abrupt Decay in 3 lands looks like what he sees, so he's going to put those to the bottom. Top card will be revealed. There's a Scavenging Ooze. That one's pretty good. You see Jeff all spells in his hand right now. He's going to play Sylvan Caryatid.
Jeff strikes me as the kind of man who cannot resist going to 100.
I'm right there with you.
He cannot. He's going to try to play this game. He's not going to intentionally mess around, but he's going to try to play reasonably well enough to navigate the game to a spot where he gets to gain 100.
Yeah, and
that's my prediction.
Now the big question here is the graphic. Can we actually put 100 up there? Can we actually make it 113?
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Oh, lame.
Thoughtseize here. Gonna show you 2 heroes downfalls. Look at Gary Sharman and Archangel Thune. It's lame because it's Thoughtseize.
Well, I was really excited about this Archangel Ajani Ultimate that I thought was coming.
Bye-bye, Archangel. Sorry, buddy.
Ajani gives Jeff more spins at it, and if anything, if anything, it slows the pace of the game down. So
That's true. I hadn't considered
it's
that.
It's not even necessarily that bad.
We're still live.
We are still live.
Jeff gonna untap these 5 lands. He'll take a draw here. It is the Scavenging Ooze that we, of course, already know about. Ajani gonna tick up. Take a look at 4 more. It's a Blood Baron, no Archangel. He can turn on the Blood Baron combo.
Oh yeah, sure, that's sweet too.
Tough crowd over here. My goodness. Jeff says, I'm going to cast this Protection from Black creature against your black deck before passing the turn back. Speers is going to draw a swamp for the turn. Again, 23 lands in his deck, 19 swamps, 4 Mutavaults. He's drawn quite a few of them this game. You don't even see the 2 Mutavaults in the graveyard right now if you're just tuning in.
Though, in fairness, he did keep 5 swamps.
That's true.
2 spells as his opening, so.
Blood Baron, a card that, it's kind of fluctuated a little bit. Mostly in between Esper decks and the black-white mid-range. There's a block here. So Jeff is going to gain 4 and then end up taking 2. He'll end up gaining 2. Pretty easy block there for Jeff. But, how do you feel about Blood Baron kind of moving forward? Especially because I know you're a pretty big advocate of the mono black aggro deck, and just, aggro decks in general look like they're going to be coming out now.
I would not want to play Blood Baron week 1 here because I feel like this is a room that's going to have a lot of copies of Museum Orders in it. But there's nothing wrong here.
Another Blood Baron going to go to the grip here. And now Blood Baron going to come into the red zone. So Hoogland going to gain some life. Spears are going to lose a bit. Now here's another copy of Blood Baron. And Patrick, that Ajani is on 8.
I know.
We could be 1 click away from plus 100.
Yeah, Jeff can't even wait to untap. It's totally unnecessary. If that Ajani just suddenly removed itself from the board, it wouldn't even matter. But
yep, there we go. Yes, sir. Catch it in. Plus a hundo. That's 117 life for Jeff Hoogland.
Gonna be really tough for Donovan's mono black.
99. That's as high as we can go.
Oh wow.
Now we're just misrepresenting the game state.
Yeah. For those of you watching at home, Jeff is now, I believe, at 125.
Yes.
Or something.
That's correct.
Whatever. That's a lot. And these Blood Barons are now 10-10 flyers.
We've essentially crashed Magic Online.
Yeah.
That's what we've just done right now.
Donovan can't even beat 1 Blood Baron, much less 2, much less with the current discrepancy in life.
Yeah, much less 117 life. But wait, Mogus Marauder has joined the party.
Boom.
Let's cool our jets just a little bit here. Now Spiteful Return with Bestow.
This is a lot of damage. I mean, this is like what, 5? 5 damage is a lot. Because it's +1 for the Spiteful Return, and then the triggers 2. That's 5, knocking Jeff to 117
yes.
or what have you.
Yeah.
I believe Jeff is not going to block. Okay.
So probably a wise decision is. Jeff Hoogland is going to win this match. We've seen officially our first Ajani Ultimate, my
Look at that
friends.
smirk. He can't even help himself.
Oh, like you would be able to. Defeating Donavahn Speers, Junk mid-range, defeating Mono Black Aggro in 2 pretty one-sided games.
Yes. Jeff's got a lot of tools. I mean, game 1, he's on the play with Sylvan Caryatid. If he has any sort of reasonable hand, it's going to be challenging for Donavahn to beat that. Can't really remove it. He has nothing in the way of pump spells, really, so Sylvan Caryatid is just a beating against him when he's on the draw. And then game 2, Donavahn kept a pretty weak hand that did not materialize.
Probably got a mulligan the 5 swamp.
Yeah, you just can't keep those hands.
It forces you to draw perfect, basically.
Maybe if one of the